Something you don't. Bring that shit. Hello and welcome to Digging in the Dome. I am joined by a fantastic guest today. It's rare to see someone spend the lion's share of their career at one company. I'm one of those rarities, and so is our guest today. She spent 18 years leading people at a little company called Paychecks, and her experience was so unique, so inspiring, and so successful that she wrote a book about it. They say a mark of a great leader is when people will run through walls for you, but honestly, I think Jami's teams would run through acid-soaked porcupines with no shoes. That's how great she is. Her new book, Connected, A Guide for Leading in a More Human Way, will be available for purchase on March 11th on Amazon. Please give it up for my guest, Jami Varela. Welcome, Jami. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Great to be here, Chris.
It's been a long time coming. We were talking about this for a while. So how long have you been working on this book?
Just over 2 years.
Incredible. And how was that process like for you? I got lots of questions for you, but what was that process for you because this is your first book, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It started with having a guest speaker for senior leadership at a little company called Paychecks join and talked about loving your team and hybrid leadership or hybrid workforces. And I went, oh my God, that's my love language.
Yeah.
So I reached out to the lady and who happened to be, an executive at Microsoft. So I really had to say, okay, do I have the guts to call her?
Yeah.
And she was fantastic. Gave me some suggestions, introduced me to a company called Scribe Media. Not getting paid for that. and they fully embraced my project and said, sounds like you've got a really great message because there was a health backstory.
Yes.
And that was a big part of the inspiration. Like you said, I felt like people were running through walls for me.
Yeah. So let's take a step back. Let's talk about first how you got to Paychecks, because you spent 18 years there. You were a manager previously at another company, but really most of your leadership experience and really your career experience came from Paychecks. What got you there?
Well, interestingly enough, I grew up in a small Central Valley of California town, basically a farming community. Mm-hmm. And I kind of started to try college and stopped and tried and stopped. Our family it wasn't in the financial cards. Mm-hmm. So for the most part of my young adult life, I was a waitress at every restaurant in town.
Yeah.
And then, through a deep conversation with my dad, who said, Jami, leave small town. You've got some more to offer. Just go.
Right.
And he helped me get to Southern California. My first sales job was, as you mentioned, a much smaller company, a mom and pop, but somewhat known company. It was a liquor distribution company.
Okay.
And I loved not just the liquor, but it was fun.
Yes.
And I was promoted into leadership there. And I had a former employee who, was recruited by Paychecks. Mm-hmm. Came back and said, oh, there's a place you can make more money with those skills.
Oh, that's great. Who doesn't like more money?
Yep, more money. And people used to ask me, don't you miss all the free liquor? And I'm like, no, I can buy it now.
Yeah, right. You could afford it because you had a job that paid you more money. Now, you were a waitress for a period of time, and you mentioned that you were in a small town. So how, what was that like? Because you obviously grew up in this place. You were in California in that small town for your entire life before you moved away from it. And how far did you move away? Where did you actually end up distance-wise? Was it hours away? And
yeah. About 4 hours, a 4 or 5 hour drive. So it was a big, big move. I had a few friends that were there and they supported me in making that move. Mm-hmm. But really, it was a huge leap. I left most everything I knew.
That's crazy. And so, and that's a big, big step for you. So now, so you ended up going, all right, college, not financially there for you, can't do it. And then you got into sales. So conversely, I went to school for 5 years, had crushing student debt, and ended up in sales too. So you win. You did all this. I should have just skipped all the college stuff and just went right. I had lots of experience there, which was a lot of fun. But at the same time, I could have saved hundreds of thousands of dollars. And
yeah, I win.
Yeah, you did win. You win. Congratulations. I appreciate your get up and go. And you went to this new town and you found this sales opportunity. You sold for a bit and then you became a leader. So, like we talked a little bit about, the fact your theme in your book is about leadership. So what attracts you to leadership? Why leadership for you?
Helper personality.
Yes.
I would hear a lot even from friends. Oh, if you need something, it wasn't like if you need $5, because I might not have had the $5.
Mm-hmm.
You should call Jami. She'll listen. She'll support you.
Right.
I just kind of that person. So even in my years as a waitress, they call them food servers now because waitress isn't cool.
Mm-hmm.
I just would like do anything I could to make the experience happy.
Right. Well, isn't that weird though? Like not to digress, but we're going waitress, waiter. I need this food server. It just doesn't have the same ring to it.
Not at all.
No, I don't like that. But you wanted to make the experience great. And what I heard from you is that, like a lot of leaders, you were a servant leader. You were there to help. You were there to support your people. And that is really, in my mind, one of the keys to good leadership is not really thinking about yourself, but putting your people above you.
Oh, absolutely. I definitely write about that a lot in my book, right? Going from you're the star to you're the support.
Right. So when you get into, I'm now we're going to name drop here. I'm sure he'll be very happy if maybe that we're talking about him. But Steve Hansen, one of the great leaders there at Paychex, was he the one that you started under and stayed under for the entire time that you were at Paychex?
Yes.
That's incredible.
One boss. 18 years.
Yep. Steve is a unique individual. Fantastic. What do you love about Steve Hansen?
Consistency. I mean, there are no surprises.
Yeah.
You know what you get.
Yep.
And that made the world, when surprises that were not in our control came my way, I knew what I could expect from him.
Right. And that consistency obviously led through a lot of adversity because as we were talking about, like, one of the interesting things about your experience is the adversity you had to overcome, especially during the tail end of your career as a leader. Can you talk?
No.
Can you talk about your diagnosis? Because I'm not sure if you don't know this, but I'm not a neurosurgeon. So I'm probably not going to be very good to explain what happened to you and how you found out about it. And so what happened?
Well, it's funny, not funny. I started having what I thought, again, were panic attacks. And literally go like, okay, am I at my number? What's the deal? You've been through this. Why are you doing that? I did tell Steve at one point, I was like, man, I'm having like dizzy panic attacks. And mind you, I'm 46 at the time. He goes, you're not pregnant, are you? I go, no, because 3-eyed babies are not what I'm looking for.
Oh, what a great Steve he's a gem. All right. What a weird thing to say. Hey, you pregnant? No.
We sell HR, but awesome.
Right. The people in HR are the least HR sensitive people there are. Trust me.
For sure. But a close enough relationship where it landed fine. Because like I said, my response was no, because 3-eyed babies are not anything I'm looking for right now.
Yeah, exactly. You were done. That the shop was closed.
Yep. So there was a particular day. I had an office in Orange County where I live, Orange County, California, another office up in Los Angeles. I was ready to make the commute. I was actually onboarding a new employee. I got about 2 miles from my house, pulled over, called my husband, and said, I don't think I should be driving.
Oh, wow.
So he came and with his employee and grabbed the car, went home. After a little while, I went, I think I need to go to the hospital.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I talked them into it because I was sort of coherent.
Right.
They were kind of like, oh, but my husband's employee was an old friend who used to be a paramedic.
Oh, thank God. Jeez.
Literally, I said to him, hey, Chris, I'm having altered mental status. Usually you don't say that when you're having altered mental status, but what was happening is little panic attacks were little baby seizures.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So when I got to the hospital, I ended up having what used to be called a grand mal seizure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Know about those. Yeah.
They're called tonic-clonic now. Now I'm going to make everybody a neurologist. I woke up some hours later to learn that I had a 1 centimeter brain tumor in my right temporal lobe. Good
Lord.
Yeah. So some time passed. I had it removed very successfully. But, there's no other way to say it. It kind of scrambles your noodle a little bit. It left me with epilepsy.
Right. So removing the tumor gave you epilepsy.
I don't want to malign the brain surgeon.
Yeah.
But
right.
To some degree, yeah, I still have that. I had a second brain surgery a few years later, cleaning up scar tissue.
Right.
Still just a thing I keep trying to keep under control.
Right. So you have to, this is something that you now live with for the rest of your life.
Pretty much.
But you have at least now, for lack of a better way to put it, out of the woods, meaning that you've gotten through, you've diagnosed it. They got rid of the tumor. Knock on wood, tumor's not come back.
Yeah.
The scar tissue's been removed. Now you are probably just using medication to help control what could happen to you.
Exactly. Okay. There's still, there are still seizures occasionally.
Right. So you had two surgeries, but how long were you in the hospital? Like cumulatively, if you could think about it, how long were you in and out?
Months, week here, week there, week here, week there, getting ready for the second surgery was, it involved going into UC an epilepsy specialty center for a week and being on camera and hooked up to an EEG with people coming in trying to provoke seizures. I like to call it seizure gitmo.
Wait, they were doing what? They were trying to cause seizures for you? How did they?
Yes. It's fascinating. You wear the little EEG, all the stuff, right?
Uh-huh.
And the idea there is, let's see where it's coming from. Not only are we going to clean up potential scar tissue, but we're going to do we're going to remove some brain tissue.
Okay.
Where the electrical activity starts.
Oh,
so
wow.
in order to catch it, like lightning in a bottle, they do different things like keep you up for a couple of days, flashing lights.
Yeah.
The stuff.
Wow. My goodness. That's a lot. That's a lot to go through. And wow, you gotta be crazy strong to be able to even make it through something like that, much less be able to come back from it, because the story of your comeback was really interesting, right? So, and I do want to talk about that, but I also want to talk a little bit about, hey, look, you don't work at Paychex anymore because you decided to hang up, and good for you. You should have. You did all you needed to do there. You're ready to retire. I worked there for 17 years, had a great experience. I moved on. So I think that we could both, though, say we wouldn't have stayed for as long as we did, you 18 years, me 17, if it wasn't a great company.
Oh, great.
So talk to me about the support system that you had there. Like how, because you think about that, right? You were a fantastic leader. You had a fantastic leader in Steve Hansen, still a great leader. And then you get literally sideswiped by something that you could not possibly have anticipated. Talk to me about the support system that you had with your Paychex family and how that got you to where you needed to be able to get back.
Yeah. A couple of things. Yeah, of course, I'm worried about everything from my health and how my family's doing to just naturally got to put food on the table. And I really, love my job. And I was worried about all the time it took the first surgery, right, to heal, be able to come back. I was, running out of, FMLA. And Paychex said, no, we got you. Just get better, come back. And it particularly unique was that my reps, my employees, direct reports, they were all having to report to somebody else.
Right.
A couple somebody else's. And it wasn't too long before they're like, please get better and come back. I'm like, oh, see how nice I was? See how freaking awesome mommy was?
Yeah, exactly. That's amazing.
They had a bunch of stepmoms that they did not like.
Of course. Yes. I mean, because they're not you.
Right. So came back. Paychex, again, super great. I got back in March 2017. I had an event to kick off the next fiscal year, beginning of June. I had another massive seizure.
Oh, my God.
And I started to try and text my boss from the hospital, and my husband said, okay, it's enough.
Yeah.
But I did, I asked for permission. I said, I really don't want to be on disability. I'm not done with my career. I'm young.
Right.
Youngish. And the idea was floated all the way to the top after a few months, of course, where I secretly worked from home.
Right.
I was able to work from home as a sales manager with the first person.
Yeah. You were the pioneer of something that we had been talking about in as a person in sales strategy and operations, that we've been talking about trying to convince them, hey, going in front of a 3-person pizza shop in a suit not necessary, especially when they blow you off after you've driven for 45 minutes to go and see them.
Right.
Don't do that. But it sounds like what you're saying is that they were overly accommodating.
Oh God, yeah.
And I think that is something, again, that as we're talking here about your greatness, we cannot undersell the fact that if not for a great company that actually gave a crap about their people, you would not have been able to do that. People would have found a way to try to get rid of you because of your disability.
Oh, I would have been so jobless, because something people don't realize is when you have epilepsy or uncontrolled epilepsy, which is what is mine considered, you can't drive a car.
Right. And that was what I'm saying. You were, as a sales leader, I did it too. I was a sales leader, go out with your reps to do ride-alongs to see, the hitches in their swing, to try to get them to be better, to help them close deals. And you can't do that when you can't drive.
Yeah. And going into the office and seeing people and being present and, just having visibility. Yeah. I was a ghost.
Yeah. Anyway. Right. But still. So, you still made a massive comeback. So when did you officially come back from the second time you were shelved? When were you back?
Right.
Because you had the seizure in June, right? You were out for a while because
I was out for days.
Oh, just for days.
June,
okay.
A couple days, came back to work, secretly was working in from home.
Right.
Mr. Hansen said, all right, well, let's not tell anybody. And we did. Obviously my reps knew, some locals knew, but it wasn't at the C-suite yet.
Okay.
And it got to the C-suite in a very interesting way.
Okay. How?
Well, one day, because the next fiscal year, fiscal 18 was coming to an end.
Yep.
And I was right there in a dead heat with somebody to be the number one, or have the number one team, I should say, right, for the year.
Mm-hmm.
And the boss texted me and said, hey, so-and-so is coming to town. Get your Fox News dress on. That's what I used to call my clothes.
Okay.
Get your Fox News dress on. Get down here and do not tell him you're working from home.
Okay. Oh, so you had to make it into the office to feign that you were actually
I Ubered in a dress and heels. I had worn in months, wobbled in.
Right.
And the boss said, you never met him, and he's a very numbers oriented guy. Like, who isn't, right? Come on.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And I know your numbers inside out, backwards, forwards. And I did already. That was my job.
Right.
And then questions started to come out. I was like, wow, how are you doing this? And tell me about, if it's okay, would you like to talk about, can you talk about? And I just started telling, the facts.
Right. Telling the truth. Right. Like, this is what's going on, actually.
Yeah. I watched my boss bristle a little bit, but.
Right. But why not be honest in that moment when you could,
I had it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's great. This is great. I hope you're number one. Keep going. Whatever you're doing, it works. I want to learn more. Right.
And so that's how they figured it out. That's how they learned.
Yeah.
And it's interesting too, because, it's always, when you have it's the benefit and the detriment of a company of that size and that age, is that they get these very bespoke processes in place, right? These things that we just expect, this is the way that it has to be, because it's always been. And it's very difficult, I think, for sometimes companies like that to see change and know that it's going to be okay if you do it a little bit differently. The world changes, so you got to change with it. And when you're a juggernaut like that, sometimes you just think, well, but there's a risk involved if we make a change. But you proved it without them actually. You piloted a virtual sales manager, and they had no idea. And the result
that was the best part. Yeah,
the result was you ended up number one in the country, if I am not mistaken.
Yes, we were. And that was like I said, the best part was being able to. I'm not a big fan of ask for forgiveness.
Yeah,
because I can go wrong.
Yeah.
But in this case, and as I explained, I'm like, look, I needed to prove myself. I needed to survive. I needed even the work to help my brain heal. I needed to be stimulated. Right. It was important to me. And so I did what people talk about a lot, like adapt, right? The Darwin thing.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I'm going to go ahead and adapt. We weren't using Zoom then.
Right. Exactly.
I couldn't see my sales reps when I did a one-on-one. Mm-hmm. I had to listen. I had to check in more. Sometimes I just pick up the phone and randomly called anybody. Hey, I haven't talked to you in a while. Could be the manager.
Yeah, Yeah.
It made me more in touch, really.
Right. Because again, you're not able to be physically present in an office, physically present in, because it's when you're there, there's like natural busyness that occurs, right? It's
Yes.
it's just kind of like, because you're like, buzzing around the office and people have questions for you and they just come and sometimes people just sit in your office and just talk your office,
Oh, yeah.
and when you're at home, it's a different animal, right? It's like, well, I just got nothing but time now. And
Yeah.
so you end up being a better communicator as a result of that. It's a byproduct, a very
I definitely
interesting
believe so.
byproduct. So did you have to change? So speaking of, you talking about your physical challenges here, did you have to change things about the way that you lived? Like, what things did you have to change physically about yourself that, like, what did you have to give up, or what did you have to modify in your life because of
Definitely.
this physical issue?
Driving for starters, right?
Yes.
The other was, being very careful about, especially in the beginning, being alone at any time.
Right.
And, just constantly checking in and letting people know. And I because I'm not alone right now, I wear it at almost 55, and I've fallen and I can't get up necklace.
Yes. The life alert.
Oh yeah. But it's not that brand, but it's
Oh,
really, it's
right.
so cool in that if I did, fall down, it notifies people that are in my little circle. It notifies 911 with GPS.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, that gives me a peace of mind, but I gave up a tremendous amount of my independence. And that's still a weird thing.
Right.
I've been doing 5 to 10 with epilepsy.
Right. That's crazy. So, and so the driving thing is completely off the table for you forever. Is that kind of the deal, or?
No, you have to go, 6 months. And with I had an incident over the summer, so I waited a little bit longer.
Right.
But I would really ideally like to be a year and feel more comfortable. Like, okay, all the medications are working, but they change. You have to change them up every year or so because the cocktail needs to be redone.
Yep. And I can listen. This is a weird corollary, but I have a dog that also has epilepsy, and it is a management process. So she's on phenobarbital and potassium bromide, and we are constantly checking her liver values and making sure that her, we're tracking her seizures when they occur. Yeah. Knock on wood, she hasn't had one in a while. But it is a lifelong process. It's a ongoing thing. It's never stops. I give her medicine twice a day.
Yeah.
So it's a life-changing thing to have that happen to you.
Definitely it is. And I know, there's some people who say it's corny, but boy, does it wake you up to what's important.
Indeed. I went through some interesting life-changing things myself, not nearly as impactful as yours, but I've got pretty high blood pressure. And, one of the things that the doctor said, and it was almost like, things getting taken away, you got driving taken away from you. And they said, you have to cut back on like caffeine and coffee and stuff like that. So, I started taking this green tea shot called Magic Mind. And it is crazy. So it completely replaced caffeine for me. Like, I don't I make coffee for my family in the morning. I don't drink it. I literally, it's crazy because I thought there's no possible way. Cause I love, first of all, the taste, not a key, right? But it's really interesting because, these guys kind of fell in my lap because of this podcast. It was like serendipity. They reached out and said, "Hey, do you want to do some stuff with us?" And I was like, and they told me their story. James Richard, the guy that founded Magic Mind, actually had a very similar problem. He had a similar problem. He had a heart problem, and he had to stop drinking coffee. So he, being the entrepreneur that he was inventive and came up with it. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I have to cut back on this anyway. I'm on blood pressure medication. I got to cut back on caffeine, so I might as well try it. And sure enough, man, it's like a little green miracle. It's amazing. Like I every day wake up in the morning, shot, and then no need for coffee. It's crazy. And it does have like other like benefits too. It gives you like really sharp mental acuity.
I need that.
Yeah. So yeah. Well, look, I mean, I'll tell you what, Jami, if you are interested in getting some mental acuity for a limited time, you can get up to 48% off your first subscription or 20% off one-time purchases with code digging20 if you go to www.magicmind.com/digging20 at checkout. Discounts are coming. Sorry.
Well,
but like it's
good to know.
But you have to do things. The point of all of that is adaptation to adapt, right? And you had to adapt to an entirely, because you'd spent the lion's share of your sales management experience doing what all other sales managers did, which is go out on field rides, be in the office, be there. How were you able to drive such great performance out of your people without that?
Oh, this one was hard for some of the senior leadership here there. I said, you know what? I am happier because you know what I'm not doing? Driving and yelling and screaming and playing Metallica at 12. My reps were super happy after I, played Master of Puppets at 12 5 times in a row. Walked in and was like, who's up? Who's up? Who wants to come in for the one-on-one now?
Yeah.
And I said, that's true. And I got, another element. Shoot, being a working mom.
Yeah.
It's not as if I was not doing work. And it's not cliche to say I was kind of probably working a little bit more, but I wasn't unhappy about it. But once in a while in between going potty, I could, move a little laundry. Yeah. Life got better, which in turn made me, show up better. So what I did, and another, I would, again, just tell my reps, like, look, you guys are my little multi-level marketing scheme. You're like Amway. Yeah. When you're happy, I'm taking care of. I don't really look anymore at my numbers, my quota, I know my numbers because it's my job to do so, but it's not a me thing anymore. And I was happy enough to make everybody happy instead of trying to protect myself. So a lot of it just came from a change in my environment.
Right. So do you think, just say it flat, do you think that today's, and maybe like, I guess it was kind of a legacy leadership style of you got to be in the office all the time, or you got to be, up in your reps business all the time, and you got to be like on top of them all the time. Do you think that is the wrong approach?
1,000%. I was not doing it very much even before the health stuff went down. I think that's part of why people were loyal. I was already a little bit of a maverick without, bucking the system or going against the company goals. I don't believe in that. If I didn't like those goals, I should just bounce.
Exactly.
But it gave me like a legitimate, you guys don't really want to replace me, right? It just is a laziness of not wanting to replace somebody.
Right.
And I proved something worked. And obviously when the pandemic started, I was like the OG. But I believe that. I believe that my employees were the happier employees. I had low to no turnover for a couple of years.
That's great. That's great. And that, so I guess that skill, right, what you had to learn by default, like what are some of those ways, like, so people, I guarantee you when they hear this and they think about their own, the people that are leaders that hear this, which I'm sure tons will, when they think about like, how would I do that? Like how do you stay so connected to people? What tools do you use? Not say tools, but like even if they're internal tools, but like what are the ways that people can kind of get there? Because I think that people are kind of afraid of letting go of that, especially if they've had some level of success in the past.
It definitely starts with knowing who you work with. And one way to look at if we're just talking about sales reps, but we can apply this anywhere, your team leader of sorts, knowing who you work with and realizing your direct reports, again, you work with them.
Right.
And I met a lot of leaders over my time that would, come and ask, I want to go talk to so-and-so. I know nothing about them. Tell me what their husband's name is. And do they have any dogs? And I was like, that is so fake.
Right.
If you want to, being real.
Yeah. Have a conversation with them. Learn.
Some of these words are buzzwords, right? Authentic. But I like to believe as well that I'd started off kind of with empathy. I wasn't the boss that said, and don't be the boss that says, well, I don't care if you have to drop your kids off at school, find some other way. I mean, I started meetings at 8:15, not 8, because I had a lot of parents dropping off kids. Like, hey, right. You're human beings, and I want to treat you like that.
Right.
And I think it does start right away in the interview process, right? Knowing the person within reason.
Yep.
Knowing your colleagues, because everybody wants to be a person.
So yeah, let me ask you a follow-up question to that, because this is, again, where leaders, I think, get stuck. How do you create an environment where you can know somebody, truly know them, without making it too much like, I'm your friend, not your boss?
Right.
Because that's a problem too, right? They get too comfortable, then some people will take advantage of that.
Well, I think it starts with some don'ts. If you don't socialize together. There's one thing when companies have events,
right? But
you can always remember you're the leader. I don't know who it was in our organization that said nothing good happens after 12 p.m. or something like that.
Oh yeah, I've heard that a million times. Yeah,
right. Don't party with your employees.
Right.
So leading by example in that way. You're keeping that boundary. It's kind of the same thing you do in parenting. Let's hope. Right? These people aren't your children, but modeling that way. They see you being somebody who is inquisitive and caring about other people. I think that always starts with that. But once in a while, you have to do, like I said, the interview process, talk about what the boundaries are going to be. I'm going to be your leader, but this is my leadership style.
Right.
Even being open to asking feedback is so important. Giving and receiving, right? We heard that a lot. Once in a while, you're going to have somebody who genuinely, they're not just complaining and say, I don't like talking about my numbers. It stresses me out. Okay, get a new job. Don't be jealous.
Right.
I don't like to do more performance. But some folks will say, this kind of works good with me. I built that relationship eventually with my boss, and even had a real serious moment where I had to come to him, like I was ready to leave in the earlier years.
Yeah.
So I just don't feel like we're even getting along at all, and I need you. So presenting an opportunity for people for them to tell them about themselves to you within reason.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's something that I too think is, as a leader, is important, is to have a brand and to have non-negotiables, right? And to create those boundaries, not to necessarily set. And I think that, it's funny too, because you and I are both fans of movies, and we've been around for a little bit, been around the block a little bit. And I think that sometimes movies give you this persona, and people, I mean, again, art, life imitates art, right? So some people see that like they're being influenced, whether you know it or not. All the things that you've seen on TV, all the movies that you've seen where there's been a leader, the Glenn Rosses of the world, all that kind of stuff, right? Gets into your brain and then creates this persona of what you think you should be. It's like if I was wearing like a spacesuit, I'm acting like an astronaut, right? I don't know how to be an astronaut.
Be interesting.
But you know what I mean? Like but that's the same kind of thing, right? So it's like you model yourself off these archetypes and these kind of like role models out there. And that's kind of what guides you. But, then if you're in leadership for any amount of time, you start to develop your own style and those non-negotiables and those very important things. And the best leaders that I've ever worked for and worked with, and the ones that I emulate, are ones that have that mentality of you need to like me too, right? It's not, but you also like me and value what I could bring to you.
Definitely. That when you bring up non-negotiables, first of all, that list should be a short list.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be.
It should be short, and it probably just starts with be respectful.
Yeah.
Let's start there. Let's start with, again, the human-y stuff, right? And if I'm ever gonna pull the jerk card on you, it should be very rare, and it should be for some sort of hell-worthy trespass. Remember the 5% jerk rule? I know we've heard that before.
Right. Yeah.
It should not be a common thing. People should go, "OMG, what did I do?"
Right.
And again, it's usually something that's like that. It could have been fired, kind of thing. Otherwise, something else that I liked to. It particularly came up after the health stuff, right? Was, look, guys, I'm a human too. I'm going to screw up.
Yeah.
And it's okay with it. There's a lot of that within reason. I don't call you out publicly. I don't embarrass you. Come to me if there's ever a concern. If you think that there's something that's especially out of character, because I learned that about myself when I was going through the parts of the health stuff before I knew I had a brain tumor, right?
Right.
I was kind of a little off.
Right. Right.
Okay. It opened my eyes to really looking for when my employees, colleagues, et cetera, you name it, friends, family, when something was out of character, to proactively check in and be like, you okay?
Yeah. And making sure you're checking yourself. Like, I think that's
Oh God, yeah.
It's a really difficult thing. Like I see this to my team now all the time, which is you have to keep your side of the street clean. You have to always self-assess. You have to make sure that and think about the recipient of whatever messaging is coming out of your mouth. Because I guarantee you that if you put yourself in their shoes and they read the email that you just sent,
oh God, I knew. Yep, emails.
Ooh, they're gonna get defensive, and and it's amazing if you just take a second and don't react. How easily you can kind of chamber that into something that's more consumable by the person that's receiving it, and you have a better outcome because you're really coming from, again, a place of trying to understanding and listening. Like how, tell me more about why you feel this particular way, why you're doing it this way, so that I can understand it, and maybe we can get to some kind of a common ground. We might not, but at the very least, you're not going to think that I'm a jerk.
Right. That's a huge one. Right. It's helping people understand how they could be perceived. And it's always interesting, like, a salesperson would be let's say, or think they were very aware of how they would, just, I can make sales and I can get somebody to do something. And then when they work with maybe a service partner, I'd be like, oh my God, you said whatever.
Yeah, right. You're like,
either filter them through me, or I'm going to read that email back to you and watch your response.
Right.
Like, oh my God. Okay. So these are things that we don't do. Why don't we do them? And let's talk about, again, just the humanity of it all. But what are we trying to accomplish here? If you just want to dunk on somebody, I don't know, maybe go on Twitter.
Right.
But not here.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
You want to dunk on somebody? Not here.
There's so many platforms you can do that.
Right. Just not the paychecks.com email address in one of them.
No. And it was interesting because I think that, again, sometimes that comes with comfort. Right. You've been somewhere for a long time. You get really comfortable and you feel like it's a familial thing versus a thing. So then you're like, you react almost like you're talking to your brother or sister and not somebody that is your coworker and that you need. Not that you don't need your brother and your sister, but you know what I mean? Like people that your family is a different animal because they'll always forgive you. People at work, well, maybe not so much. Yeah. You don't want to have mortal enemies at your place of employment.
Definitely not. Those were all my non-negotiables, by the way. That was part of that list.
Right.
You do something like this. I'd probably, have somebody in a performance improvement plan quicker over their behavior sometimes than their numbers.
Yeah.
The productivity was like, I could fix that better or easier. We can work on that in a real, technical way, or all these. If we need to work on your personality, that's going to be where I'm more focused.
It's the difference between someone who isn't doing something because they don't have the skill versus the will. Am I doing it because am I being obtuse because I just want to be obtuse? Right. I don't like to be, it's the punk rock mentality of some people. Sometimes they're just like, you know what I mean? They're like, I don't want you to control me. How dare you tell me what to do? Well, I am your boss, so I don't know.
And I didn't pull the boss card often either.
Yeah.
That was very rare. It was, I am part of getting you to your goals, the goals that you talked to me about, that you identified, your dreams. And even, I find I say this a lot. It's so weird. I talk about this in the book. I sound like that person.
Yeah.
But if I know what somebody's goals are early on, even our relationship, everything from, look, I want to retire someday with dignity, or I want to, like, one of mine was, I want to put a pool in my backyard. It was a monetary type goal, or, I really want to be able to send my kids to college because I couldn't, things like that. If somebody got a little outside the bounds, and not just a little outside, just, maybe not doing their daily kind of tasks that were going to get them to where they needed to go.
Right.
Taking their foot off the gas. And I'd already identified it wasn't because, again, they had a brain tumor or something like that.
Right.
I was able to kind of bring them back with, these are not the behaviors that get you to that goal. Let's talk about the ones that will.
Exactly.
And they knew, okay, she cares. She's on my team.
Right. Exactly. And that's the other thing too. It's not like when you have that, there are leaders that are out there that are very much, there's this chasm between them and their people. And it very much is then a contentious relationship and not a partnership. You guys are operating towards a common goal, or should be. So if you go into it with that mentality and you think that way, and I think that again, it comes down to leaders the same way. It's DNA. You either are a leader like that or you're not.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and what you will do if you're a leader that is just a taskmaster, a whip cracker, all you're going to do is you're going to see that you have very high turnover and very dissatisfied people. You may even get performance out of them, but it will be dragging them along. You know, that's always the interesting thing, is that like some people get celebrated sometimes when they really don't deserve that celebration per se. You know, like it's like, you got there, not great, guy. You know,
it's really painful to watch, because you'd see the folks that reported them like going, not buying them a coffee mug saying "Love you, boss."
Right. Exactly.
Not at all.
No. They're sending you ricin in the mail.
Ooh, I can think.
Yeah, well, you probably don't want to do that. I did mention earlier we were talking about how you're a big fan of movies, so I did have a question about your top 3 favorite movies. And I won't critique you. However, I lied. I will totally be judging you. You have your top 3 favorite movies.
Okay. Starting with Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Okay. All right. Love that movie. It was a big part of growing up.
Big part of my growing up.
Me too.
For sure.
Yes.
I'm going with anything Mel Brooks, because I don't know if I want to go down the total Mel Brooks road.
I know, but there's too many to choose from anyway to really pick a favorite.
Right. Oh boy, this is last 3. It's going to be Dawn of the Dead, because
Dawn of the Dead.
Yes, because that also, anybody who's likes a zombie movie where they run, I'm like, no, George Romero would be really upset about that. Zombies are slow, shambling things.
Right. Yeah. Like, so you're not. So there was, what is it, World War Z, where they had very fast zombies.
And I watched an interview with Max Brooks, happened to be Mel Brooks' son, wrote the book. What he was asked, did it upset you? He was like, I got paid. Like, oh, okay, Max.
I mean, I guess there's
truth to that, right?
It's a positive spin. Like because you do see sometimes these movies where people get into it and they're like, boy, this was really not a great decision for me. I should not have done this.
Right.
Got to pay the bills. Those are good choices. All right. I don't disagree. I think it's interesting when people look at zombie movies and say, like they have, what was that? 28 Days Later. It's kind of that fast zombie kind of thing. Right. I
don't consider them zombies, but okay.
Yeah. I mean, they could be something else. They're other monsters, just not zombies, not the traditional sense of zombies. Okay. Well, those are good choices. So I have another thing that's not related to the book that I want to talk about. So I want to see if you want to play a game. I am launching a game show this March 27th. It's coming to the Gem in Spring City for those that are local. It is called Full Disclosure. So the game, we can play a round of it if you like, and if you win, I will send you a prize. But the
prize better not be, Chris?
What?
Better not be Bean Boozled jelly beans, or I.
No. Oh wait, you mean?
Yeah. I know what you did there.
These cursed beans.
Oh yeah.
Kevin's always trying to get me to eat these damn beans. And I keep on getting, I don't know what it is. I feel like somehow, like it's like a magic trick that he somehow gets me to pick the either buttered popcorn or rotten egg. And now 2 times that we've done this stupid bean thing, I've gotten the never got the buttered popcorn. I've spun the wheel, hit the buttered popcorn / rotten egg, and got them twice in a row back to back. on both occasions. So I'd spin it, and it'd be butter, popcorn, or rotten egg. Then I miss another question, spin it again, butter, popcorn, or rotten egg. So it's back to back the most gnarly taste ever.
I'm painfully aware of those. You will not send those. Thank you.
No, I will not. No, I mean an actual like prize, something nice.
The ground rules are set.
Okay, so here's how the game works.
Okay.
I'm going to ask questions, right? And your job is to guess whether or not I'm going to say yes or not. Okay. And the questions are, this is rooted around the game Never Have I Ever. So the way that this game will work on March 27th at the Gem in Spring City is I have 5 comedians on stage that will be competing for a cash prize, and they have to bet on whether these people are going to say yes or not by symbolizing it with a little swig of a drink, whether that be, we're not saying that you have to have alcohol. You can have water if you're not into that kind of thing. So here's the question.
Okay.
As an adult over 18 years old, have you ever vandalized someone's property? Over 18.
Okay. And now just read. I'm guessing whether you'll say yes.
That's correct.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. 1 point for you. All right. This is actually
what you're capable of.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing that I'm thinking of that came to mind immediately was, and this is, hey, look, when you're kids, you do lots of fun things. Sometimes you get into some trouble. This particular time, I was taking mushrooms and I uprooted somebody's plant in their yard and threw it into the street. So yeah, and I believe that when I explained it to my friends, as they told me later, I said that I was looking for a duck. Strange. Okay. Question number 2.
Yeah.
Have you ever stolen a close friend's significant other?
I'm hoping no.
Which
you're a man of integrity.
Well,
I'm going with no.
You'd be correct. That's 2. Good job. All right. Last one. Here we go. Have you ever been to jail?
Yes.
I'm afraid not. But you got 2 out of 3, so I will still give you a prize. Congratulations.
All right.
Well done. See? Now, the cool thing about this is that Jami knows me well. We've known each other for a long time.
Yeah.
The cool thing about this game when we get comedians on stage is that there are people that don't know each other at all. So they're going to be like side-eyeing each other. Play this game with some people, and it is very fun. They get to ask questions like that too. So it'll be a lot of fun. Come and see that show. All right.
I wish I could.
Well, I mean, you can Uber. That'd be quite the expense.
I just want to find the person who wants to do the drive.
I mean, so one of the things that we are actually toying around with the idea of live streaming it, because I think it would be a fun thing.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Yes. So, but that will be a good time. So talk to me going back to things, because this is I have a nice tie-in. See, I'm going to segue this thing back into a little bit of promotion, but a little bit of going back right into what we were talking about before.
Great.
Have you had people under your care on your team that have told you something pretty crazy that you had to shelve?
Lord, yes.
More than one time, I'm guessing.
Oh yeah. I had one other rule, which somebody go, I have to tell you something, but you can't tell anybody. I said, if it's breaking the law or an HR violation, all bets are off.
Right.
I'll put you in the trust tree for sure. You're in the trust tree.
Right.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly, I felt honored. If it was something where I thought, or I should say I knew, hey, let me get you a resource for that.
Right.
For the 5th time, I'm going to say it. And you say it a lot now. I sound like a dork. I talk about this in the book. I used to watch those interviews and see somebody say that and go, oh, that seems.
That's what you're supposed to do. We're promoting it.
I know. Which is, you've got to be an unlicensed therapist.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember which senior leader probably told all of us that years ago, right?
Yep.
Your job now is unlicensed therapist.
Yes.
I added to that best supporting actress sometimes.
Yes.
Too.
Oh, yeah.
That was when I wasn't doing great. Once in a while, I had to be like, okay, put her in a compartment.
Yes.
Show up, put your shiny dress on and go to work.
That's right.
But for sure, I would say, okay, I think I'm glad you felt comfortable telling me this. Let's get you some help. Or if it was just a bad day or, just in general, when to tell me something about just who they were.
Yes.
I knew it built a bond.
Have you had those situations though, where, and I can say I'm not ashamed to admit it, because sometimes it's just the way that you have to be honest about how you feel about things, where someone comes in and they're crying and you're just like, you're like, all right, the reaction is not.
Oh yeah.
What the problem that you are coming to me with, or the feeling that you're having, does not elicit this response.
Yeah, definitely a couple people over the years, and I've thought back, like how many people have been under my care. It's dozens and dozens.
Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, a couple in particular, when I really started to figure out how would I say to somebody without saying, you're a crybaby. So
right.
It's okay. I'm going to work with this person just on how they view stuff with perspective.
Yes.
Well, perspective and a little bit of, their emotional maturity. And sometimes it did end up being where they talked to me a little bit about their background, how they got to this place.
Yeah.
Like I'm used to responding in this way.
Mm-hmm.
I found that most of them were not manipulating me.
Right.
But I did joke with one of them once the relationship was so solid, where I went, do your tear ducts ever just dry up? What comes out of there?
Well, yeah, because tears are weapons. And that's the thing that, you have to be very careful about, like those emotional responses that people sometimes have, being able to see whether it's a genuine thing or not. And that part of it is understanding too how often that's occurring, right? Exactly. So, and under what circumstances is it occurring? Is it happening because if somebody is just they're because some people just are just emotional people. They're empaths, so to speak, and so they get emotional all the time, and that's okay. You can be that person, that's all right. And if you know that about that person, that's their standard reaction to things that potentially cause them a bit of stress,
right?
Then you're not rattled by it, and you also know that it's not necessarily that serious. It just is who they are.
Yes.
Right. Versus somebody who they know that they should have been doing something, or that they like you would ask them to kind of perform in some kind of a way, and then when they're now called on it, all of a sudden
the waterworks. Right.
That's when you just push the tissue box. You need to take a minute. You need to take a lap, compose yourself, and come back, or do we need to reschedule this and talk about it in a few hours or tomorrow? Like
something like that. Definitely. Yeah. But if that is commonly occurring, right? Eventually, you're going to have the talk.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, I should say all the time, really, if you're delivering any sort of bad news, for one, bad news comes from you. That was another great ism I learned from my boss.
100%.
It does not come from somebody else. You don't blame it on somebody else. You're in trouble because of somebody, we have to talk about something. We're going to rip the Band-Aid off. It might not be pleasant. I assure you it's for your best interest, including mine and the organization's.
Yeah.
But it might be a challenging conversation. I want you to know that. But we're going to jump into it. And if we, I would just set the stage.
Right. Don't blindside them with it. And by the way, those conversations should never, ever be a surprise.
Right.
I think that's the one that when people are shocked, like, well, we've talked about your numbers and you've been consistently 30% of plan for the last 3 quarters, and you didn't see this coming. Did you think we were just, yeah. It's like,
oh God, that I have to jump in and add to that. When I was asked, frequently, and I was honored, like, can you mentor this person, this new leader? And that was a big part of why I wrote this book, right? It's a lot about going from manager to leader. You get promoted, you're not ready to be a leader. And somebody would have like the right characteristics in a lot of ways, but not some of the other skill sets to be developed. And it'd make the point of, okay, so we, our world was in a lot, our weekly one-on-one, right? Team meet, everything's this once a week thing.
Right.
And then once a quarter this, I'm like, if anybody's surprised, it's because you don't communicate often.
Right.
And if you really wait until, if something has happened, you wait until the week of the one-on-one or the day of the one-on-one, that's a huge mistake.
Oh yeah.
Or worse, you don't address something and you wait months later. And think about, like, you've got a dog, I've got cats. You don't scold them for something. And I'm not big on scolding mine anyway, because I'm a pushover. A week or two later, like, what are you going to do? Explain to the cat, that thing you did
right
with the couch.
Exactly.
We're going to talk about that.
Yeah. Remember that time 2 weeks ago you peed on that at the end of my table?
Right?
No, I don't actually. I'm a dog. I forgot that 3
And
seconds after it happened. So no, I don't. Don't know what you
employees are
mean.
the same way. I did appreciate that. I'm always about my boss, right?
Right.
And this came from somebody, again, we know we're not name dropping, but it was one of the greatest lines ever.
Mm-hmm.
And when you see somebody, like think about your child, so it's a child analogy.
Mm-hmm.
And so missing your numbers, missing big or missing a project, whatever it is, and it's going to be like really detrimental. Like it's like when your kid starts to cross the road and you
Mm-hmm.
grab their arm and you yank them up on the curb.
Yes. Yep.
I love the visual of that.
Yeah, it's a great visual. Yeah.
Yep. And you don't wait until they get run over by the car and they explain, you know what you should have done?
Mm-hmm.
Not walk out in the middle of the road, carcass.
Right. And that's the thing that I think people often miss because you're, again, to your point, you're still a human being.
Mm-hmm.
You still have feeling. You don't want to bring bad news to people, like unless you're like a sadist.
You're a sadist, yeah.
Right. But like most people are just like they get nervous about that. And
oh yeah.
I think that it's again, it is incumbent upon the people that are you're doing them a disservice if you're not saying
Absolutely.
it. You're hurting. And especially if you're not taking ownership over why it is something that you should be okay with saying it. Because we should be able to, if we're not having that open and honest conversation constantly about your performance and getting better, I can't help you get to your goals.
Exactly.
And that's the crazy part.
Part of leadership is courage. I learned that from my first mentor who said, you got a lot of the right skills. The care is all there because you're backing down and you're doing you and them a disservice.
Yes.
And it brought me back to like, it was to set the stage, build a relationship. But the relationship couldn't be 50 first dates.
Oh, right.
I almost put that. I almost made that a chapter because I really did have an employee where every one-on-one was like that movie.
Oh, you know,
I'm like,
yeah,
do we know each other?
I literally just used 50 first dates in a trivia that night that I hosted on. Yeah.
I did not know that.
It was a 51st. Yeah. So yes, as amongst all the other things that I do, I host trivia twice a month. I write my own questions too, because I believe in integrity.
Yes.
So, what if you were going to like kind of sum up, like what is the message of your book? What is the most important thing people should be taking away from it as they're reading through and getting a perspective from someone who's gone through a lot, but is obviously clearly a very successful and great leader?
Thank you. But summing up is hard. Leadership is about caring. And if you care, you're going to have to do a lot of difficult things and uncomfortable things. But understanding that doing these things, everybody wins. So making yourself vulnerable in all ways, shapes, and forms without, again, spilling your guts out to everybody is what it takes to be a true leader. Courage, courage, courage.
Yep. Got to be brave and you got to care.
And it's brave to be authentic. So that's why it's hard to bring. Like, it takes a lot of bravery to be vulnerable and authentic. Like, it's not the wow, but
yes. And it's, I think that the thing that people, we talk about this before, maybe not even today, but this is something we've talked about before, which is like you do run into folks that are really successful salespeople. And I think the inclination is to say, well, if they're a good salesperson, they're going to be a great leader. And those two things have almost nothing to do with each other.
Well, there you go. That's why the summing up is hard, right?
Yep.
You have to know right away if you're in leadership for the right reasons.
Yes.
Are you there again with that helper personality? Not doormat.
Right.
Like, you like seeing other people do well. You know that their success becomes your success.
Servant leadership, right? It's servant leadership. It's caring about
all the way.
Because, and by the way, when you invest that kind of attention and energy, and you're genuine with the way that you care about your people, it becomes your success will come along with it. And I very rarely very rarely seen scenarios where somebody that is coming from that place is not successful. Like they have to have the other stuff too, right? You still have to have organization. You still have to know how.
Yeah, you give me some other skills.
So, one last one, because I'm really interested in this too. So, what about, because I think this is another area where leaders struggle, and I've heard this with leaders that I am now leading, where they are having this. They're like, they get frustrated by the fact that they're like, well, and I've heard this before, and I'm not sure. Why can't they just do it like me?
Yeah. Well, like little fingerprints and flowers and everything. Everybody's unique.
Yep.
It's your job to find out what their skill is, what their, area of opportunity is.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that phrase.
Yeah.
And help them. I know because it's tired and build off of that. But they are not you. And you might not be the best. But your job still is to get them to their best. If you brought somebody there who just can't do it, well, that's on you too. That is your job too. That is your opportunity area. You don't know how to hire the right fit.
Right. And we've all had bad hires. It happens. Yeah. No one's infallible, to your point. We're all human.
Well, yeah. Usually that comes from some sort of desperation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what are these? It's there. Some people do fall through so it's interesting because the experience that I have now is that I'm working at a company that is that's been around for a long time, but is very much in a rebuilding mode because they restructured and they're trying to kind of like reset a bit. So it's kind of like being in a new company. With a bunch of people that have been there for a long time too, which is weird, right? So they've got like a very, very like, this is the way that we do things kind of mentality. But it becomes again challenging because this is the way that we've done it, and this is and then when you start to go through the process of seeing if people are still fits, because when you're going through that kind of shift,
for sure, I know what you're saying.
Then they're like, then they start getting into some of the leadership gets into a panic, and they're like, and they're tempted to be like, well, a warm body is better than no body. It's like,
oh God, yeah, bad breath better than no breath.
Yes, that's not correct.
Not true.
No, because you're just going to inherit a problem or somebody who's not going to perform the way that you want, and
it wrecks teams. But that's something else that people forget. Bad hire isn't just the like, okay, well, this one's bad, we're going to coach them out or they're going to quit. It really impacts the whole team. All the way up to them, your colleagues too. And never forget about that. Not just reps looking at you like, has Jami lost her marbles?
Right.
What kind of judgment does she have? And we had to deal with this yokel.
Yeah. And then they're like,
they mad at you.
Figure out like, because then they also become a burden to the rest of the team.
Yes. They're help me or yeah.
Oh yeah. And then you start to hear all the excuses and stuff like that. And that why that person is just basically, like a lost puppy. And they're just like, I don't know what to do. And then and it's okay to learn, but at some point you gotta, you have to have the right, and it's got to be the right fit for your team. So when you're actually hiring people, you can't just hire for the position. You have to hire for a cultural fit. And
you absolutely do.
Yeah. People struggle with that sometimes because again, they're like, I have a number to hit. And if I don't get somebody in here quick, I'm going to be doomed. Well, no, if you put the wrong person in, you're going to be doomed.
That's why I still feel strongly that, if you've got a great team, let's hope you do. Let's hope the majority of your team is solid. Employee referrals are always the best because you can always ask somebody, would you co-sign for a car for them? I love that one.
Oh, a lot. Yeah.
Like great. The $1,500 little finder's reward that you get
exactly.
Worth it when I come and repo on you.
Yes. Right. And your name is going to be tied to that person. You're going to be wearing a scarlet letter around the rest of your career. All right. Well, Jami, I wanted to thank you again for spending some time with me. Let me just do some shameless plugs for myself and then I'll plug you.
Do it.
I will be at the Church of Satire at the Good Karma Comedy Festival. I got selected to perform there again this Saturday, February 22nd at 9 p.m. Great show there. Go to Church of Satire, their website. I'll put the link in here. You can see it. On March 3rd, join the Comedy Cabal. Yes, March 3rd at 1278 Brewery. We're going to be having a open mic there that I will be hosting. Make sure you come out to that. And again, full disclosure, coming to the Gem in Spring City on Thursday, March 27th, the debut show at a beautiful location. It's going to be fantastic. And now just announced, we are going back to South Jersey to the beach. 2 more Slack Tide Summer Spectaculars, one in June, one in August. Details will be coming out there. Go to my link tree, also right here, and you'll be able to get tickets to all that nonsense. But more importantly,
my man,
you need to go and get this book. This book is going to be out on March 11th for purchase. Give it a great review. Read it. If you enjoyed this conversation, please make some comments here in the YouTube and on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your content. Will be out real soon, certainly well before the launch of this book, probably in the next couple of days. But it was been a absolute joy talking to you. I could talk to you about leadership all day. It was fantastic.
Oh, thank you, Chris. It's a good thing we didn't get down the music road. We really would be here all day.
No, yeah, we'll get back together. We'll talk some more music. We talked a little bit of movies, just a teeny bit of movies. Just a teeny bit.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
I'm excited.
Me too. Go get Jamie's book, damn it. All right, bye.